Well, picture this. We're raising our Series A for my startup Posterous. My co-founders and I were at Benchmark Capital on Sand Hill Road meeting with Peter Fenton, legendary investor in Twitter and Yelp. We think it's going fine until Peter asks this question. So, are you a platform or a network? The three of us looked at each other and we said both. And the meeting might as well have ended at that moment, in Peter's mind at least. Sometimes the worst thing you can do as a founder is say both. There are moments you have to choose, and that was one of them. Let's get started. Investors are interesting because they get to see so many different things all the time. At Initialized, I feel like we learn new things that are basically secrets about how the world works all the time. And it's the founders that teach us by telling us what they're excited about and what they're focusing their entire life's work on. Each startup is a vector. It's a direction with a certain momentum. And once you see enough vectors, you kind of see the matrix. At least done right, that's how it is. I was always kind of skeptical of this, but one thing was clear after working with thousands of companies at Y Combinator. Paul Graham used to talk about this a lot. Every future great startup, something like an Airbnb or an Instacart, is like a new element on the periodic table. If you're an engineer, designer, or product person overall, you're like the physicist. You understand how the atom works. So you, of all people in society, have the clearest idea as to what the next spot on the periodic table will be. So that's why Peter's question, are you a platform or a network, was so important for us to nail. It was the question to answer at that moment in 2010. All of the things from social media of that time were basically either a network or a platform. Twitter was clearly a network. It was free, and the value came out of the network being as large as possible. The users themselves were the product. Once you own the network, then you can charge rent through ads. In contrast, a platform looks more like Squarespace or our friends at Weebly. The customers paid for it. The value was a direct transfer from the company to the customer. As software builders, you are working for your customer. And because you charge, you could have money to go and acquire new users. As long as long-term value is higher than customer acquisition cost, you have a viable business. If your long-term value is way above your customer acquisition cost, well, that's a money machine. Why didn't we get this right? It's a simple question, but what I realize now is that when we were asked that question, we didn't understand the question to begin with. Investors have seen a lot of startups, so they're trying to ask you questions based on their lived experience. Often it's because they've already lost money on it already. So when you hear a question you don't understand in a pitch meeting, you should stop and ask, what do you mean by that and why? It's okay not to know the answer to things sometimes, especially when you are quite early. So what happened? Well, obviously Benchmark didn't fund us. Peter Fenton remains one of the best investors out there, and I learned a lot from him about what it means to be a good investor from that one pitch meeting. Posterous did end up selling to Twitter for about $20 million later as basically a talent acquisition. They ended up shutting down the platform. Meanwhile, our friends at Weebly kept charging their users. They became a world-class platform and not a network, and it's still in operation today. Squarespace has become one of the most profitable platforms on the web. And no, I'm not being sponsored by them. So what I realized is we actually had a chance at being a network. The network that ended up winning the mobile social media battle was actually Instagram. And when Instagram launched, Posterous was actually one of the checkmark destinations on the post page in Instagram. It was us, Twitter, Facebook, and Foursquare on that page. I'll have to tell you the story of that some other time. Hindsight's 2020, so what I realize now is at the moment Instagram launched, that was the moment that Posterous stopped growing. There was a better alternative to posting by email. And so the hard part was when we couldn't be a network, it was clear we needed to become a platform. We needed to choose to become a platform. Saying both was the wrong option. I think that's one of the bigger regrets I have in my life. Before we changed ideas, before we chose to pivot, we didn't try to become a platform. We tried instead to become a private sharing network for families that could neither grow virally nor be a service that people paid for. We were maybe 15 people at the time with a burn of under $200,000 a month. We had 20 million uniques and about 2 million active bloggers. Even if 5% converted to paid at $5 a month, that would have been more than $500,000 a month in revenue. We clearly could have been a platform, and maybe we would have been a different company in the end. So are you a platform or a network? The hard part is this question may not be relevant to you at all. But when you're pitching, pay attention to the questions your investors ask. If you don't understand something, don't pretend that you know the answer. And the other thing I've learned the hard way, the answer is probably not both. Good luck to you as founders and future founders. I hope you've learned this lesson from me so you don't have to learn the hard way. If you like this video, please click subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when I post new stuff. I don't have a team, it's just me sitting in my home in San Francisco making these videos just for you. Leave a comment below and I'd love to hear from you. Are you an engineer? Are you a builder? Are you starting a company? Maybe you already have. That's the magic of what's happening in the world right now. In any case, I'm glad you found this channel. I hope that you get a chance to build a business and maybe a startup. Thanks for watching.